little bit more.
Yeah.
All right, Mike Brown. Jason, when you heard it was Mike Brown, what was your first reaction?
First reaction, I was glad, one, on multiple parts. I am a fan of Mike Brown.
Mm-hmm.
I remember talking about Mike Brown during the season, basically after Luke Walton was done, like looking at potential people.
Yeah.
I am more in the camp. I get the connect to the Warriors that for some reason, not some reason, because the Kings haven't been good, but that has been a put-off for some. I think of that organization as an amazing organization that the Kings would love to duplicate. So that part doesn't bother me. And it's also more of Mike Brown's career is away from the like. He's been with Pop. He's been his own guy.
Yes.
He's been he was that young assistant that some people wanted that got a coaching job. And so that, and then when they had the 7, I thought based on one of the early things we heard, they wanted a coach with experience and a coach that could improve the defense. So I thought he checked a couple of those boxes.
Has experience.
Yeah.
Runs the defense.
And looking at his run with the Cavs the first time through, every year he was coach of the Cavs, they were top 10 defensively. Or, so in the top 10. Now this team has miles to go to get into the top 10. But on the list, I was as pleased of it being Mike Brown, but I'm going to go back to my other statement. 1, the roster needs to get better. Number 2, it's a lot like the draft. You could tell me this is the best coach the Kings ever hired or the worst.
Sure.
Let's see them play. Let's see him coach. Let's see him coach in this system with these guys.
Mike Brown is 347 and 216. He has a 61.6% winning percentage, including 47 and 36 in the playoffs. He made the playoffs every year he coached but one. Basically, he was with the Lakers for 5 games in 2012-13,
right.
and they missed the playoffs. So did Cleveland. The following year, he was there for just 1 year. They finished 3rd in the Central at 33 and 49. But his first 6 years as a coach, they made not only they make the playoffs, but they made the conference semifinals every year except for 2 when they made the conference finals, and they lost in the actual finals. He was the coach of the year in the NBA in 2009, also the best record at the midway point, and coached the All-Star game for the East that same year. Also, a lot of folks, and I love the knowledge, pointing out that a couple years ago he was named the new head coach of the Nigerian national team. And why is that important? Because we talk about maximizing talent. And not that there isn't, of course, any talent on the Nigerian national team, but you're not talking about a historical powerhouse by any means of the imagination in international basketball. I think it shows him the ability for him to go and bond and have success and maximize talent with a roster that in the world scope of things is not the most talented. So I do think that's germane to the whole deal. He has a business administration degree, which why am I bringing that up?
Yeah, why are you bringing that up?
I'm bringing that up because I always, it's kind of it's like when I found out Damian Jones has an engineering degree. I always like it when somebody's well-rounded. He was hired by Greg Popovich 22 years ago, ran their summer league teams in both Boston and Salt Lake City. He was on the staff when they won a championship in 2003. Then was hired as an associate head coach under Rick Carlisle with the Indiana Pacers. Then went to Cleveland in 2005. Replaced Brendan Malone, Michael's dad, as head coach of the Cleveland Cavaliers. In his first NBA stint, he had quite a bit of success with LeBron and the Cavs, as we said earlier, going all the way to the finals at one point. They made it past the first round of the NBA playoffs for 5 consecutive seasons. In 2011, he succeeded Phil Jackson in Los Angeles.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, that's a bit of a tough one. In 2011, there was a lockout that year. You might remember Lakers made it to the second round. Interesting note that in 2012-13, after the Lakers got Steve Nash, Dwight Howard, they had a starting lineup, you might remember, of 5 former All-Stars, where they combined 33 All-Star game appearances, including Ron Artest, Kobe Bryant, and Pau Gasol. Mike Brown decided the Lakers would use a version of the Princeton offense. Didn't necessarily work out, but I think when people around here think Princeton offense, they get warm and fuzzy, as do you and I. Was rehired by the Cavs for a second stint, replacing Byron Scott. Dan Gilbert said firing Brown the first time was a mistake. For the first time as a head coach, Brown's team posted a losing record over an 82-game season. Tons of injuries, reportedly infighting in the locker room. He was fired for his second time 13 months after he was hired by Dan Gilbert when Dan said it was a mistake to fire him. 6 years ago, the Warriors hired him as an assistant coach. He replaced Luke Walton, who departed for the Lakers, and he has acted as head coach when Kerr's unable to coach due to back pain. And Brown, we've heard this before with Luke, he led the Warriors to a 12-0 record in the playoffs while Kerr was absent. So there's your resume for Mike Brown. I agree with what you said, Jason. You know, I did a KCRA thing last night, and the headline they took was basically the Kings hiring Mike Brown means nothing. And
okay, what do you mean by that?
It's a little bit of a contextual thing. The fight.
Did you get mad at them like you get mad at me?
Did I? What?
Every time I post something like that, you always text me, God, you ruined my weekend.
Listen, people got to do what they got to do.
I'm just saying, did you let KCRA know? Bet not.
Maybe
Maybe
not.
February.
Or Dave's news comes first.
Yeah, love the KCRA, but you have to contextualize it. It does mean nothing. It means nothing in the sense. And maybe the better quote would be, it doesn't mean as much as you might want it to mean. And this is to your point, Jason. Mike Brown seems like a perfectly reasonable choice. I have nothing bad to say about Mike Brown, and the whole he can't win without Kobe and LeBron kind of goes to the point. It means nothing because without a roster, without a roster of talent, it doesn't matter who the coach is. I'll keep saying it. Greg Popovich was 14 games under 500 this year. He's still a pretty damn good coach. So does bringing Mike Brown in, will it instill a little bit more defense? Can he be like Dave Yeager, who I think has been the best since Adelman, even better than Malone for most of that year at maximizing talent? Yeah. But it's up to Monty McNair and friends to figure out that roster.
Right, and that's the thing. I think that's the perfect – I think you said it before the show, which was a perfect description, win the margins, right?
Yeah.
So what's the max win score for this roster? And if that's – 40 wins,
sure,
then get to 40. But how much, is it a 50-win team? It's not on the roster. 60. You want your coach to match up with the roster, and I think the better part of 16 years, could a coach have gotten more out of every team? Every coach would probably say yes.
Sure.
But we're not talking 10 games. They haven't fallen short by 10 games of talent.
Yeah.
They've been short of talent.
Yeah.
So they need to improve that. I think they believe they did initially, but if Sabonis plays closer to an all-star level, or is one, and Fox reaches his maximum potential, they'll be better.
They will.
I don't know how many wins that is, but they'll be better.
They'll be better.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree. Much, much, much more on this.